At a holiday gathering, my cousin laughed over drinks and said, if she ever left, no one would even notice. My own family laughed as I sat there in silence. 2 months later, after quietly moving half our suppliers and vendors into new contracts under my name, I walked away, leaving the family business to collapse without a single warning. I'll never forget the exact words. If she ever left, no one would even notice. It was a throwaway line. Said like a joke. A stupid, half-drunken comment from my cousin Marty while we were all sitting around the fireplace at my aunt's house during our yearly Christmas get-together. But it stayed with me. Stuck under my skin like a splinter I couldn't pull out. What made it worse was the laughter. My dad laughed. My uncle laughed. Even my own sister chuckled. I was sitting on the couch next to the fireplace, holding a half-empty glass of wine, staring into the flames, and I didn't say a damn word. I just sat there. Quiet. Like I always did. That was my role. The quiet one. The dependable one. The one who showed up early, stayed late, and didn't make waves. The one who kept the family business running while the men played boss. I was 34 years old and had worked for our family's supply and logistics company for 9 years. We were based just outside Rochester, New York. Not glamorous, but it paid the bills. My grandfather started the company in the 1950s, and my dad and uncle took over in the early 80s. When I finished college, they brought me in without really asking me if I wanted to join. It was always just expected. I didn't mind at first. I liked the work, finding solutions, making things run smoother. I had a head for logistics and numbers, and I was damn good with people. Within 5 years, I was handling nearly all our supplier relationships, all the vendor negotiations, and most of the back-end operations. But I wasn't the face. That was always Marty, my cousin, Uncle Ray's only son. He had the swagger, the loud voice, the golf game. He showed up late to meetings, didn't read contracts, and took credit for everything I did. The worst part? Nobody seemed to notice, or care. I told myself for years that it didn't matter. That I knew the truth, and that was enough. I kept my head down, smiled through the disrespect, and kept the business running. Until that night. That stupid, boozy Christmas Eve. If she ever left, no one would even notice. And the laughter. It took everything in me not to break that glass in my hand. I just smiled, got up, and went into the kitchen to help with the dishes. I was gone maybe 10 minutes. Nobody came looking. Nobody noticed. But I noticed. I noticed every little crack in the foundation I'd been holding together. And that night, when I got home, I opened my laptop, stared at our supplier spreadsheets, and something in me shifted. I'd always been the one who kept the lights on. Maybe it was time they found out what it looked like when I didn't. The beauty of being underestimated is that people stop watching you. They stop asking questions. And they definitely don't see the knife until it's already in their back. I spent the week after Christmas working late every night, not for them, but for me. I quietly registered a new LLC, Riverside Procurement Solutions. I made sure it looked legit, professional logo, basic website, clean branding. I didn't use my full name anywhere. Just my initials. I opened a business bank account and got a separate P.O. box in Syracuse. Nothing could tie it back to our family business directly. Then, I went through our top supplier list. There were about 20 vendors we used regularly. I had close working relationships with at least 15 of them. I negotiated the contracts, smoothed over delays, handled their invoices when my cousin forgot to pay them. I was the one they trusted. I made some calls. I didn't push. I didn't lie. I simply explained that I was starting a new venture and asked if they'd be interested in continuing to work with me. I offered cleaner terms, faster communication, and better support. 10 of them agreed almost immediately. 3 more asked for details and a few weeks to think. 2 said they were loyal to my family. I respected that. I didn't push. But within 3 weeks, over half our supplier chain was signing new contracts under Riverside. Legally, they were free too. The old contracts were expiring soon anyway, and I'd made sure to keep the fine print on my side. By mid-January, I had enough to cripple the original business. I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel proud either. Just focused. Every day, I went into the office like normal. Smiled at my cousin. Took notes in meetings. Answered emails. And all the while, I was quietly rerouting vendors, shifting payments, setting up a new order pipeline under my own company. I didn't tell anyone. Not even my sister, who worked in HR. Not even my mom. I just let them laugh, let them think I was nothing. And I watched the clock tick down. March 1st. I didn't go into work. No explanation. No email. No warning. I just didn't show up. Marty called around 10:15 a.m. I let it go to voicemail. He tried again an hour later. Then my dad called. Then my uncle. Then my sister. I didn't answer a single one. The next day, the email started. Where's the vendor log? Have you seen the updated contracts? Do you know why this supplier is suddenly saying we need to reapply for credit? The panic didn't set in right away. They still thought I'd come crawling back. But by the second week of March, the cracks were everywhere. Vendors were missing shipments. Invoices were bouncing back. Several key suppliers had already signed exclusive contracts with Riverside. They couldn't poach them back. They tried to renegotiate, but they were too late. I'd already moved most of the high-value business over. I was already fulfilling new orders with my own company. The trust, the relationships, those were mine. They just never realized it. One of our biggest clients, the state procurement contract we'd had for 5 years, reached out to me directly. I'd been their point of contact the entire time. When I explained I'd started a new business and could continue to fulfill their needs personally, they didn't hesitate. The family business missed the bid deadline. Disqualified. By April, they were in real trouble. My cousin was calling vendors every day, trying to understand why their terms were suddenly different, why their shipments were delayed, why their contacts were out of office. Uncle Ray called one of the vendors I'd flipped and threatened legal action. The guy laughed and said, "Your niece beat you fair and square. Grow up." My dad showed up at my apartment. I watched through the peephole. I didn't open the door. He stood there for 5 minutes. Knocked twice. Then left. I haven't spoken to him since. By mid-April, things had gone from bad to worse for them. They lost 4 more contracts. 3 of the vendors they tried to beg back refused to even take their calls. Word had spread fast that they were unstable, and that I was now running things smoother under my own name. I stayed quiet. I didn't post anything. No press release. No gloating. But the family, they started turning on each other. My sister, who worked in HR, got laid off by the end of the month. She texted me a long message, asking if I knew what was going on, why vendors were suddenly refusing them, why she had to clean out her desk while Marty still came in late and blamed the economy. I didn't respond. I loved her, but she'd laughed that night. She'd been part of it, even if she didn't mean to be. And she never once stood up for me. Uncle Ray and my dad started fighting at work. I heard from an old coworker that my dad blamed Marty for losing control of the supply chain. Ray blamed my dad for handing too much over to me years ago. Marty blamed everyone but himself. And that's when things got real personal. One morning in early May, I got a notice taped to my apartment door. A thick envelope. Inside was a cease and desist letter from their lawyer. They were accusing me of corporate theft, intellectual property misuse, breach of non-compete. I sat on my couch and read every word. I wasn't surprised. I was just disappointed. Because if they had even once treated me with the respect I'd earned, I would have built Riverside with them. I never wanted to destroy anything. I just wanted to build something I could finally call mine. Instead, they sent threats. So I called my lawyer. Everything I'd done was clean. The contracts were legal. The vendors had every right to leave. There was no signed non-compete. They had never even thought to make me sign one. I was just the girl who handled the back end. Their lawyer tried again, this time more aggressive. I handed everything over to my legal team. My contracts. My timeline. The LLC papers. The emails with vendors. My lawyer sent one reply, all business conducted under New York law. Nothing unlawful. Any further harassment will result in a countersuit. That was the last I heard from them legally. But not personally. It was the second week of May when Marty showed up in person. He didn't text. He didn't call. He just knocked on my door around 6 p.m. I opened it. He looked rough. Eyes bloodshot. Face red. Like he hadn't slept. His voice was low and angry. "You really did it," he said. "You really stabbed your own family in the back." I didn't flinch. "No, Marty. I stopped letting you walk all over me." He stepped forward like he was going to yell. "Do you have any idea what you've done? You destroyed everything. Grandpa's legacy, my dad's job, I cut him off. No, you destroyed it. When you laughed at me, when you ignored my work, when you called me invisible, you made this happen." He just stared. I said, "You said no one would notice if I left. Now look around." His mouth opened like he wanted to keep fighting, but there was nothing left to say. I shut the door in his face. He didn't knock again. After Marty showed up, I thought the worst was behind me. I figured the family would lick their wounds, maybe even start over. But I underestimated just how deep the damage had gone, and how desperate people get when they start losing everything. About a week after that door scene, I got a call from Susan Harper. She was an old friend of my mom's and one of our longest-running clients, had been ordering industrial cleaning supplies for her 5-location daycare chain in Buffalo since I was a teenager. She didn't waste time. "Sweetheart," she said, "I didn't want to get in the middle of this, but I thought you should know, they're bad-mouthing you. Your uncle came by one of my centers last week with a whole folder of papers saying you were a fraud. Said you stole vendor info, used company funds, and that your new company was built on lies." I sat there, my hand gripping the phone. Susan continued, "He wanted me to drop Riverside and come back. I told him no, of course. I trust you. But if he's going around to others," I thanked her. Told her she was doing the right thing. But inside, my stomach turned. They weren't just trying to save themselves anymore. They were trying to ruin me. And they weren't being subtle. Over the next 2 weeks, 4 clients reached out, some confused, some angry, asking about rumors they were hearing from the old company. One client even mentioned something about pending charges, which I knew was a bluff. But smearing me was all they had left. So I made a decision. I got in my car and drove straight to our old office building, the one we leased out in Henrietta, near the big post office. I hadn't been there in over 2 months. But I still had my pass card. I didn't go inside. I just waited in the parking lot, sitting in my car until I saw Marty come out with a takeout bag in one hand and his phone in the other. I got out and called his name. He stopped. Turned. Looked surprised, then smug. "Back to apologize?" he asked, voice full of sarcasm. I walked up, stopped a foot from him, and said loud and clear, "You keep running your mouth about me, and I'll take everything you have left. I've been patient. I've been quiet. But you try to drag my name through the mud again and I'll file for damages, emotional, financial, professional. You'll be lucky if you can open a lemonade stand by the time I'm done." He blinked. The confidence left his face. I kept going. I didn't steal anything. I built it. The vendors came to me. The clients trust me. And you? You're a liar with no receipts. Then I pulled a manila envelope out of my bag. Handed it to him. Every vendor contract I signed. Every transfer notice. Every email. All time-stamped. All legal. You keep pushing, this becomes public. I turned and walked away. He didn't follow. The next twist came from where I least expected it, my sister. I hadn't spoken to her since she was laid off in April. We used to be close, but I hadn't forgotten her laughing that night or how she'd stayed quiet while I got trampled year after year. She texted me one morning in June, "Can we talk? It's important." I agreed to meet her at a diner halfway between our places. She showed up looking tired. Worn down. Like the stress had been sitting on her shoulders since spring. I didn't know how bad things were, she said. I thought they were just being their usual selves, until I lost my job. I didn't say much. Just listened. She reached into her purse and pulled out a flash drive. Slid it across the table. "What's this?" "Proof," she said. "Of what they've been saying about you. Of what they planned." I plugged it in when I got home. There were emails between my uncle and a shady lawyer. Plans to claim I embezzled money. Drafts of fake documents. A whole smear campaign meant to kill my credibility before Riverside could fully grow. They'd gone far. Even tried to get an old coworker to lie on paper. He'd refused. I sat back, stunned. They weren't just bitter. They were dangerous. And they were willing to lie to burn me down. That flash drive changed everything. Up until then, I thought I'd already won. I walked away, started over, and left the broken pieces behind. But seeing those emails, the lengths they went to, trying to fake documents, push false charges, ruin me in every way, it pulled something dark out of me. I wasn't just angry anymore. I wanted them to hurt. So I called my lawyer. We met the next day, and I laid everything on the table. The contracts, the false accusations, the emails from that flash drive. He read in silence for 20 minutes, then looked at me and said, "We can bury them." So we did. We filed a civil suit for defamation, tortious interference with business, and malicious intent to damage my livelihood. We served each of them personally, Marty, Uncle Ray, even my dad. The suit hit them harder than I expected. Turns out, their insurance didn't cover intentional misconduct. And they didn't have the money to fight it in court. I made a public statement on Riverside's website. Calm, professional, but clear. I stated that we had taken legal action against a former business entity for attempts to spread false claims about our founder and damage our vendor relationships. It spread fast in our industry. Vendors talked. Clients talked. The truth got out. Their business had already been bleeding. This finished it. They closed their doors by the end of August. Liquidated assets. Sold the warehouse. Laid off the last of their staff. But that wasn't the end. Because then my sister, who had given me that flash drive, got caught in the middle. She'd been hoping I'd forgive her. She'd even asked if I could bring her on at Riverside. But I couldn't do it. I told her I appreciated what she gave me, but I couldn't trust her. Not after all the years she stood by and let them treat me like a ghost. She cried. I almost did too. But I held my ground. Because in the end, I had changed too. I'd let the anger guide me. I'd used it to build something real, something powerful, but also to burn everything behind me to ash. And once I lit that fire, there was no unlighting it. Months later, I stood in front of the old warehouse one last time. Empty lot. Boarded windows. For lease sign hanging crooked. I thought about my grandfather. About all those Sundays I spent restocking shelves with him, thinking I'd carry on a legacy. But that legacy had rotted long before I ever walked away. They thought I didn't matter. That if I left, no one would even notice. Well, they noticed. And now there's nothing left to laugh about.